Welcome to the Flora podcast, a place where we help you create a life you're excited about. Hey everyone, welcome back to the podcast. I am over the moon excited for today's conversation. Oh my gosh. Okay, so Lisa, Rose, and I have known each other, it seems like many lifetimes. And we instantly connected years ago at a Sonia Choquette psychic certification training. And we've been connected ever since. And so, Lisa, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. I'm so happy to be here.
Yay.
I love spending time with you. We could talk all day.
Oh my gosh. Yes. And we have.
Yeah.
So to get this conversation started, share with our listeners something that they might find interesting about you.
I took a cab to kindergarten.
What?
That's interesting, isn't it? I took a cab to kindergarten. I was 5 years old. It was 1965. No phone, no money, no ID, no credit card. And I had my address and my phone number memorized in case anything happened. And there was a particular situation that came up. And there was a bad guy in our neighborhood, right? And so my father had said she can't walk to school, to kindergarten anymore with her buddy. We have to either take her, put her on the bus, something. And he put me on the bus, and he didn't like the cast of characters getting on and off. And I can remember my dad standing in the kitchen and said to my mom, "Call a cab." And my mom called a taxi, and the big yellow taxi came, and everybody in the neighborhood watched because I was going in the cab by myself at 5 years old. I was going somewhere. This is the time when your mother didn't have a car, right?
Yeah.
It was one car family. Dad took the car to work, So I got in the cab, and I remember that I couldn't see above the bottom part of the door where the window meets the door, because I was 5, and my feet were straight out. They didn't bend, and there was no seat belts then.
Yeah.
Right. There's probably cigarette butts and stuff all over because anybody could do whatever they wanted back then. And I can remember the last thing that mother said to me as the cab was pulling away. She goes, "Hold on to the door handle." Because I already started sliding back and forth across the big bench seat.
That's awesome.
And off I went to kindergarten, and I got dropped off and went half a day. And at the end, I ran out and I had to look for the cab, and I was on my tiptoes saying 1749 Northfield Drive. And they said, "Get away from the car, little girl." Then I would go to the next one, 1749 Northfield Drive. And then he would say, "You're Lisa?" "Yes." "Okay, I'm taking you home." And I would get in, So, but how you had that feeling, like when the guy would bark at you, you knew this wasn't good, you weren't going to get in that cab, So even back then, intuitively, I was already measuring, which cabs I should be asking and things like that. And of course, now, I'm an intuitive, now I trained intuitive. That sounds really well. But that's something that people don't know about me that I think is interesting.
How fun.
And the back seat of a cab, by the way, is still my favorite ride.
I love it. Oh, I love it. So, when you were talking about like your mom was like, "Hold on to the handle." And you started kind of sliding around. That's kind of what life is like sometimes, where we can't see where we're going. We know the destination that we told the person, but we get tossed and turned and we're like, "Oh shit, okay." And you just have to trust that at the end of all this hullabaloo, you're going to get to wherever it is you're going.
Yeah, I remember I wasn't afraid, so I was going to kindergarten. I was a person who liked kindergarten, so I was happy to go. And I was arriving in style. I had a big yellow cab all to myself, and no one could even see me arrive, to the door. I kicked the door open with my feet because it was just too heavy.
I love that. I love that you're like, I wasn't afraid. I was excited. Yeah.
I know. I had a friend once said to me, "If you ever write an autobiography, Lisa, that should be the title, Cab to Kindergarten."
Exactly. Oh my gosh. Well, that's literally so metaphorical, is because it's like you could be either afraid or you could be excited and like just kick the door open with both feet and jump out and say, I have arrived.
I'm here. Lisa's
Yes.
here.
Oh my gosh, I love it. So did you always jump into life with that much excitement and vigor, or did that kind of fade? And then just kind of share with us about that.
When you're particularly female, when you're young, right, you're sort of very free until the gender rules come into play, the culture comes into play. And I was raised in a very strict Catholic family, immigrant Catholic family. So, there were an awful lot of rules, particularly applying to the female. So there was a moment there where, I could feel I was being tamped down. There's a moment where you're tamped down by the Catholic. I went to Catholic school too, right? So, I mass every morning, go to school. I mean, I was just filled with what you're supposed to do.
Yep.
And so I call that living in supposta. You're supposed to do this, you're supposed to do that. And at some point, I think I remember it being, I started getting the inkling around 12, by 13 totally. I was leaving supposta. Yes. And it was that was when life became kind of difficult at home, with your parents, because you're in full rebellion mode. And for a female to be in full rebellion mode, that was like, what are we going to do with her? Should we send her to one of those homes for children where she can be disciplined? There are conversations about what are we going to do with Lisa?
Right.
Then I had announced, that I was no longer going to church and all of that. And then very slowly, say around 16, I was out of the cage. It was I still was, still living at home, so that I still was not responsible for myself, legally and all that. But I had a lot of leeway because I was incredibly responsible and I had a lot of common sense, and I did have a natural, innate knowing of how to make the best choices for me.
Oh, that's good.
So I was intuitive very young. And it was kind of scary because even talking about feeling free to trust your natural intuitive ability, even that was tamped down.
Yeah.
Because if I had mentioned that, what the kinds of things that I was experiencing, even as a young girl, they might have hauled me off to, the psychiatric hospital, or would have had an exorcism performed on me by the priest. I can remember, for example, when I was in that Catholic school down the street, I'm very young now, right, just before 5th grade. We used to get our grades on our paper with a number, not ABC, but they would be numbers. And I would know my number, and I would know Amy's number next to me, and I would know Michael's number next to me. And then they would turn over the papers and it would be the number. And I was like, oh, that's weird. And then other things like, the visual stuff started happening where there was a girl that sat catty corner to me. Her name was Anne, and it was on a test day. And I could remember looking over at Anne, and I saw this big puddle underneath her desk. And, you didn't, it wasn't the kind of in school environment where you could just whip out your orange juice and have a drink, lunch was done with the lunch kid and the whole thing. So I was wondering why nobody was saying anything. Was I the only one who was seeing it? And indeed I was. I found out later, that I was seeing a future event, and the future event happened like in 10 minutes because we got the test. And poor Anne was so frightened by having the test that she urinated in her seat. And then there was the puddle, like 10 minutes later. But I had seen it before. And I remember going home and I was telling my mother stories like that. And I'm not sure whether she believed me or not. And then when I started seeing, sometimes I would see people at night in my room. They looked like very ethereal, ghost-like figures that would be walking past me, And I thought I was just, imagining things right before I'm ready to go to sleep, but it was repetitive. And I remember telling my mother about that one day, and she said, "Oh, Lisa, you watch too many cartoons. It's probably Casper the Ghost, or or maybe it's Bullwinkle and Casper and they're all together or something. So I would tell her about all these characters in detail. And then I went to bed one night and I heard my mother down in the kitchen talking to my father, and she was telling him. And my father said, are all the windows and the doors in the house locked? Because we lived in at the time it didn't seem to me like a rough environment, but
Right.
first exit off the expressway out of Philadelphia. So it was dense, and somebody could have snuck in the house, but
Right.
my mom said, I don't think so. And he said, okay, he says, don't scare her by this. He said, but my aunt used to talk to dead people.
Oh.
He said, I think it's on my side of the family.
Oh, I love it. How cool. I love this.
The same guy who said, call a cat. Right.
I love it. So I bet he was really intuitive. He just kind of thought it was just common sense. Like, this is what you do. I love it. So I love that you had parents that kind of almost nurtured it, because just by him saying that, oh yeah, I had an aunt. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And he didn't want to scare me, because at the time my favorite show was Dark Shadows. I used to watch vampire shows and stuff, right?
Right.
And sometimes I'd have the covers up to my neck at night so Barnabas Collins wouldn't come in the bedroom and bite me and I'd become a vampire. It's really, really young. So I was like, don't scare about the dead people thing.
No kidding. So did you ever have any friends that you would share this stuff with? And if so, what would they say about it?
Yeah, my best friend at the time lived 2 doors down from me, Joanne. That's how you say it in Philly, Joanne.
Joanne.
And, it's like Joanne. Yeah, it's not a Joanne. There's a Joanne. And she was great. But everybody on the street went to Catholic school, right? We were all it was a community of immigrants. There were Polish and Italians and and Irish, and except for Mrs. Sheldon across the street was the only Jewish person that we knew.
Yeah.
And it was very ethnic and multicultural that way. Right?
Yeah.
So the soul was talked about a lot.
Yeah.
Right. So we understood really early on, at 6 years old, that we had a soul, and the soul existed in tandem with us, not separated, but it was a thing that had a really big existence and almost a life of its own. Because I could remember when we were learning about the 10 commandments, there's categories for sins, right? So if there's if you did a major sin, like you killed somebody, you got a black mark on your soul. Now you think about it, what they're really talking about is your soul record.
Yes.
Right? It's about the soul record. So and then the minor sins didn't leave such a big mark like that,
right?
And and now of course I work in the Akashic records because I do soul coaching, and I'm always looking at the soul and what is the energetic imprint of the person's soul, and I can tell a lot about them. I can tell what their profile is, of course, and then their characteristics, their qualities, their abilities, their gifts, their shadow side, all of that. But this recording of the choices that the soul made during the course of many lifetimes, and even when it doesn't have a human life, the soul exists and has activity.
Yes.
It's just not put in a box and put away. I mean, it still exists. So from early on, there was that, right? This idea of the soul. And so naturally, we understood that therefore there could also be spirits.
Yeah.
Which isn't the soul.
Right.
Some of those spirits are good spirits, like somebody who loves you might come in and, be a spirit, a comforting spirit, or even a spirit guide. And then there were the bad ones, that would come in. So when I would have these conversations, everybody sort of had a baseline understanding that these things were real.
Yeah.
it wasn't, the doubt for that didn't creep in until actually, my whole family moved to a complete different location, many, many hours away. And I was no longer in parochial school and I went to public school. And that was where people would make fun of you or or say that you were a nutcase or something, because they didn't have that base understanding that in fact some of them had rejected those ideas. So and then my intuitive ability was present. I didn't really know what it was. But when you first open yourself up, and you do not know how to manage your own energy. And this is where the training with Sonia Choquette was so wonderful for all of us that want to learn from her, is managing your own energies and creating those energetic boundaries. So only that which best serves you is able to support you from either the spirit world or spirit guide world. The real key is to connect to your own soul and be able to live in tandem with it, because that one knows everything and has everything in your best interest for this current life. That's how it wants to express itself, how it wants to experience itself as a soul. Is drops a spirit in your body and then you get to do it. Of course, there's the human element to it. Sometimes we want to experience the negative aspects of things just for the experience, not always just the fun parts. So so that was very helpful. In my late teens, I started having really negative experiences with those that are invisible, shall we say?
Yeah.
And I don't know if you have had this experience as well, but they're little tricksters. So they tell you things that are accurate so that you believe them. And then once they got you and you believe them, then they start feeding you and wanting you to do what they want. So they're negative beings that try to attach themselves to you, and they want to suck off your energy in your life. So when I realized that was what was going on, I shut that whole part of me down, and it remained shut down for, I'm going to say, 2 decades, like a good 20 years. I just said, I don't want to know. I don't want to know when people are going to die before they're going to die. I don't want to see the puddles on the floor. I don't want anyone attaching to me. I don't want to know that the World Trade Centers are going to come down next week. I don't want all that negative. Notice how all that's negative. That's because the negative vibe is the easiest one to receive and to decipher clearly. So I had to whack all that. And then I had a whole different career. I had a whole career, as I was a private art dealer and a fine art appraiser for 25 years. And when I decided to get out of that, I wanted to revisit. And that's how I was drawn to Sonia, because just like that, when I was looking for a teacher, the universe met me and helped me co-create that situation. And I may have shared this with you before. When I decided to close my business, my art business, I really felt like I had lost my identity. I really didn't know who I was. My master's degree in that. I've got certifications. That's how people know me. People take my phone calls, based on that particular identity that I had. And it was great. And I was really good at it. And I thought, now who am I?
Right.
That way. So my husband said to me, why don't you just take a year off and do nothing? Well, I had never done nothing since I got in the cab of the kindergarten. I had to go to kindergarten. I'm not a not do nothing kind of person. But I started traveling. I thought, I'll just travel. I'll travel. I'll move to Hawaii for a little while. I'll read books. So on one of my little breaks back here in California, I went up to Barnes & Noble, my local Barnes & Noble, and I'm always in the metaphysical section anyway. And I was looking at something completely different. I think I was looking at Chinese astrology or something. And I heard a book drop behind me. I'm the only one in the aisle. So I turned around and the book was Trust Your Vibes by Sonia Choquette. I said, well, I don't know who that is. What's that? And I put it back on the shelf. And I thought I knocked it off somehow. I knocked it off the shelf. And I turned around and I went back to look at what I was looking, and the book dropped again.
I love it.
Before I even turned around, the hair on the back of my neck went up. I thought, oh no. And then I felt really good. I'm even getting goosebumps as I'm talking about it, because I thought, this is it. This is the moment where the change is going to happen. I'm going to be told, I'm being led, just go with it. So I turn around, it was the same book. And I said, I'm talking to the book now, but I don't know who you are, but I'm buying you, I'm taking you home, and I'm going to read you. It was Friday. I said, I'm going to read you over the weekend. By Monday, I had read the book. I had searched the internet looking for Sonia. I found her. I called her office in Chicago, and I said, this is my teacher. Does she offer classes? Can I study with her privately? How do I get me some of this? And they said, well, she's starting at the level 1 class next, whatever it was. I think she's starting like on Thursday nights or something all weekend, remember?
Yeah.
And there's 1 seat left in Chicago. Like, I mean, I didn't even ask how much it was. It was expensive.
Yes.
It was expensive. For me, it was expensive.
Yeah.
And then I had to buy a plane ticket and I had to get a hotel room. And I can remember I just said to my husband, I'm going to study Sunny in Chicago. I'll be there all weekend long. And he's like, okay.
I love it.
He felt the vibe. He was like, I'm not even going to ask her what this is going to cost. She's already on the plane going, And that was the one that I met you. I met you in that first session.
Yep.
First one. Yeah.
Yep.
And that was it for me. I knew that she was going to be able to properly teach me how to manage my energy, set the boundaries so that I could be accurate and protect myself.
Yes.
Protect my own self energetically.
Mm-hmm.
And then at some point I was introduced to the Akashic records. And for me, having dabbled in a lot of tools and techniques and, and methods in the metaphysical world, that one really worked. I'm a really good intuitive. I'm extremely good in the Akashic records. And I'm a great master. So that ended up becoming, my area of expertise. And in thinking back on it, the soul work that I do, I was introduced to it so long ago. I mean, I was always meant to do that work.
Yeah. Yeah. It's funny. I think of questions to ask you and then you weave. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is awesome. Because I was going to ask you when you were introduced to the Akashic records, all of a sudden you made that kind of connection like, oh, wait a minute. I learned about this in Catholic school.
Yeah. Recently I read a book. It's a science book on cosmology and, astrophysics. I was reading some books on astrophysics because, we're energy workers. So I'm thinking, these cats must know something about, this. They have to run across it in their gravitational field force or the universe or the cosmos or something. And then I did. I found 2. And one of them, he was awarded an honorary PhD for his work in astrophysics. And he has a whole chapter on the Akasha. And it's a wide energy field. And inside of the Akasha lies other fields of energy, like the gravitational forces in there. What we know as, the Akashic records is in the Akasha. Yeah. And so many others, vocabulary words that I can't even pronounce. Right. Yeah. Come out of the astrophysics world. And then I read another one who he mentions it as well, because they're talking about it in the quantum physics. Yeah. If you go, the level underneath quantum physics is quark. The quark field things. Yep. And it's not an easy grasp when you're reading, at their level, but it gives a really great overview or an understanding of how this works. And nothing is solid. So it can go in, it can go around, it can go through. A lot of people don't know our own physical bodies constantly have quark level elements going right through our body as they're traveling into space into somewhere else. So for me, it's not really that woo-woo. It's science. Yeah. Physics. Yeah. It can be, it's difficult to explain, but I bet it could be explained mathematically.
Absolutely. Well, and that's the beautiful thing about living in our day and age now is that, well, and who knows, maybe this was revealed eons ago and that has been lost to time. But it is cool having science now confirm what we know intuitively and what we get and what we feel. And it gives the name to the woo-woo. You know what I mean?
I do. I remember when I was first studying with Sonia, and she was talking about there were scientists at Ivy League universities, that were trying to understand intuition, but it was a term that was difficult to explain. And so they ended up referring to it as vibration, right? Yep. So the vibration, and that's a good word because, as you know, right, our intuition, we're born with it. Everybody has it. Our bodies are intuitive instrument.
Yeah.
So in the same way that the spider feels the heat and moves away from it, we feel things that aren't good for us, like the cabbie that, wasn't going to take me, I just passed by his cab.
Yep.
You just sort of feel it that way. So yeah,
Yep.
I mean, I'm going to say maybe science caught up.
I agree. I love it. So share with our listeners and viewers about your journey from, okay, so you had all these experiences where you're just like, okay, all these experiences, and then you're like, nope, I'm done. You shut it off. Then you kind of had that reawakening, and then that teacher appeared, aka Sonia Choquette. All of a sudden you start to now are confirm, like all these things, you're just like, yeah. And all these confirmations of, yes, this is real. This is scientifically and mathematically legit, which you knew anyway at that soul level. But then all of a sudden, all these Akashic records, and you instantly had these memories of like, yes, I know how to do this. I know how to do this. And share with us kind of that space between when you were the student to now all of a sudden people coming to you saying, hey, can I work with you?
Part of that was, personal development of my confidence and my abilities in the medium that I was an expert at, and then putting yourself, out there. It's quite easy for me to do that as a private art dealer. I had an incredible amount of training. Everybody knew what it was that I was talking about.
Yeah.
And then I flipped into the healing arts. And so what I did was I did a lot of practice clients.
Nice.
I did a lot of practice clients. I thought this is a new modality for me. Let me practice it. And in the practice, I was able to further fine tune my own language of signs and symbols, whether I saw them, hear them, smell them, taste them, or felt them on my body, or just had an innate knowing about it. And then I found for me that having some structure worked pretty good. When I'm going to do intuitive work, I sit down and do the intuitive work. I don't walk around saying, well, maybe I'll get an intuitive hit about this today.
Right.
That just leaves your crown chakra open for anybody to come on in and give you anything. So having I call it a clean practice, a really clean, ethical practice. I don't run out of the room and start reading for people in the grocery store saying, I got a message for you. That's just, that would never happen with me.
Yeah.
So it has to be in a context of person wants the information, is open to receiving it. I'm able to connect, with them. And for me, there has to be a practical application for the information or the guidance. Otherwise, it's really just entertainment.
Right.
And I'm entertaining, but that's not my mission.
Right.
So I want to make sure that their lives are improved. And, my message in my business, my message is truly living.
Yeah.
And, I remember even being very young, hearing adults say that, those kids today, they're really truly living. They know how to live their lives. They're not doing it like we did it. And this truly living term was repeated a lot as people came to America and they bettered their situation and the kids had it better and so on and so forth. They were looking for that. How can they really live the way they want to live instead of having to do what they are supposed to do or what they have to do in order to survive, right? That became the dream, to be able to truly live. So when I was thinking about it, I'm thinking, what is my, my message here? And that was it. That it's truly living. I want people to to feel like they're truly living their best life in this version of their soul. So the soul experiences different things.
Mm-hmm.
But you find out if you've ever done past regression therapy. Oh, wow.
It's incredible because you get all this confirmation and so many things get answered.
Yeah, we were talking about stuckedness before, like being stuck. And I found that I had a point where I was stuck. And I happened to be talking to a friend of mine who was is really good friends with a woman named Carol Bowman. She is a past life regression expert. She's written books on it. She has a forum on it, et cetera, et cetera. And she's in Media, Pennsylvania, just outside of Philadelphia. And I thought, next time I go to Philadelphia, I'm going to hire her and see if I can solve this problem. And the problem for me, I thought the problem was I always felt like I could do one more thing to prepare myself better. Now, it's not that I have low self-esteem or low confidence. It wasn't bad. It might have been a tad bit of imposter syndrome where I felt maybe I was going to get busted. And so I wanted to be prepared for that. And, but, you know, even though I'm usually the most informed person in the room on my topic, I would still feel like I should have read one more article. Maybe I should have read one more book. Maybe I should have took 10 more clients, you know, and where was that coming from? And I thought, you know, I bet you this is coming forward. And even with all my great skills, I can't identify because I'm too close to the flame.
Yeah.
I'm not seeing it. Like I can't, I'm not seeing it for some reason. So she said, yes. Wow. I mean, it was a whole 4-hour thing. And to boil it down, she was great, but it wasn't that. What it was is in a past life, I died as a result of being falsely accused of something I did not do. And I couldn't prove that I didn't do it.
Oh, yeah.
And I was killed.
Oh.
And then, the freaky part about that whole past life regression thing is you have to go through that whole death again.
Yes.
And so she said, you're going to have to go through the whole death again. And I'm like, okay, I'm in. I'm in because I know I survived, right? Then your ego comes in, your mind comes in. It's like, we don't want to see that, I'm like, no. Let's stay with, I'm a spirit. I'm in this body. Let's see what happened. The whole thing, it was fascinating, and it did resolve the issue.
Yeah.
Yeah, in that way. So
I love it. That reminds me of a book called "It Didn't Start With You."
Yeah,
I think it's by Mark Wolin. Please correct me if I'm wrong, people on the internet. But in that book, he talks about ancestral DNA messages that are encoded. Yeah. Right. And I truly think that DNA is our physical kind of braille, if you would, of the Akashic. Yeah. And it's like when we go into the Akashic, we can clear it, and then it clears from our physical being, and then things just open up and triggers are no longer triggers.
Yeah, when I go in and I'm working in the Akashic Records, I was telling you I do soul coaching, right? So the soul coaching starts with a visit into the soul record, right, which is in the Akasha, and it's an energetic imprint. And the things that are stuck, that are causing you being stuck, the jargon is blocks and restrictions. Oh, you have blocks and restrictions in your record. Well, there are two things: either things that the soul chose to do that created the situation that took them out of alignment with their essence, and so that ends up becoming dramatic and chaotic, or it's other souls projecting onto you and they stuck. But it's interesting because you're talking about the clearing in the record. It can be cleared, however. The memory's not gone. The memory of it is retained. So it's the part. It's the part that caused the stuckedness that's released energetically, but the lesson is learned. So the soul still gets to have the expansion. So it's not like taking the big eraser out and just erasing like it never happened.
Right.
So yeah, it's very interesting working in there. You can learn a lot about yourself. Although. I don't know how much work you've done in the Akasha, but sometimes it can be infuriating and frustrating. because you're expecting it. I'm very direct, as you can tell, right? So I want, give it to me. I want the direct answer. I can take it. And the Akasha doesn't work that way. It works in the context of the soul's journey, not the current incarnation.
Yes.
So it's like, well, and linear time doesn't even exist there.
Yeah.
So if you don't ask the question right,
yeah,
you don't get a good answer. So that you have to
right.
formulate questions in a certain way.
Yeah.
But the practical application of that, I found, and you probably, when you were in South Africa, living in South Africa, you had a similar experience like this, where all of a sudden you said, wait a second, that's not who I am.
Yep.
And I can hear the soul calling, and I've got spirit guides that are going to get me out of this situation because that's not in my best interest. And then once you take a couple of steps forward, it starts to manifest very quickly because you're manifesting the way that you best manifest.
Yep.
So yeah, it's in there, and you can clear them out, but the very next day you can make a choice that pops that little mark back onto the soul record. It's never a once and done deal. So that's why I say to people sometimes, we can do this, but you have to make the changes to stay in alignment, and then clear what isn't working out.
Exactly. Yeah. Those are those little 1-degree shifts. Yeah.
I wish I would have known that 40 years ago.
Right.
No, I think, God, what would I don't know, what would I have done? It would have been different, but then I have to accept that this was part of it. This was the whole journey.
Yeah. I love it.
I wasn't prepared, and I wasn't ready to handle it then.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, the story I told you earlier, I got a little tweak of it. What did I do? I shut it all down. Clearly I wasn't ready.
Yep. Yeah. Well, and that's the thing. I think a lot of people, myself included in the past, is we really get down on ourselves for going through these cycles of whatever it is, whether it's bad relationships or just not trusting our intuition or just shutting our intuition off and thinking we know better and we can do better and blah, blah, blah. And then we are just like, why does this keep happening? Oh my gosh. And then we get that little inkling, that little knowing of like, oh, it's time. It's time to just open myself to up to my intuition or up to support. And because, yes, just like you said, sometimes you're just too close, and sometimes you do need that support of someone. And like, I love hiring people to help me with stuff that, even though I'm an expert at the same thing, I'm an expert at the same thing of helping other people do it. But when you are in the thick of it and you need that support of somebody else looking at your Akashic records, or somebody else looking with their intuition at your space, they see it from a totally different vantage point. And then we can, just kind of release the reins and say, I don't need to do this all. We're meant to be part of that village. We're meant to be part of this space where others can support us, to give us those insights, to allow us to see those things that I think intuitively we know, but we were just kind of blinded to. And I love that you offer that safe space for people who, like myself, are teachers or like really, strong women or people in our lives where we're just like, we got it going on, but then all of a sudden we're like, but why does this keep happening? And that's when you ask that question, that's when it's like, maybe I need to go see Lisa. Lisa.
And it's part of our own healing, because it's an ongoing thing as we experience other things. Sometimes, we choose to experience something negative, and then we realize that, we made a mistake and we can't get out of our situation. The ego is very strong as well, right? And then we talked about all the voices when you're young, whether it's dogma or parental guidance or, your teachers or whatever it is, instead of just really honing in on who it is that I am, what do I want, what do I need to hear. It's interesting. I've been getting a lot of other healers as clients, and I do that too. I'm like, my Rolodex is pretty good right now, right? So if I have any particular problem, like, this is what I need, like the past life regression thing, or I was dabbling in maybe doing some brain spotting, to get rid of some things that were stuck in my head that were causing me to have some PTSD, on an emotional level for a while, and dealt with that. And so we all need each other.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Well, and I love that we're all part of that huge community that gets that. And I think the people that kind of got it during this whole COVID thing, they really understand that, yes, I can ask for support and I can, release the responsibility of trying to do it all myself and saying, hey, you're an expert at this. I need to sign up with you, and just allowing somebody else to be of service to you who really wants to help you usher yourself into that new space, because, being in that space in your head where you think you have to do it yourself, or you think, well, maybe it's just one more self-help book is going to make it. No, if you've already read a couple self-help books and it still isn't clearing, it's still a problem, it might not be the here and now. It might be in your Akashic records. It might be something in your soul's blueprint that needs the light of day, that needs someone like you who's an expert at kind of shedding light on this for the person. And a lot of the times too, just knowing about something or hearing about something and experiencing that shifts it, just because all of a sudden you're like, oh yeah, okay. Because it's almost like that instant remembering,
in the Akasha, there's also the ability to understand how the individual soul best manifests. So I've been doing this work too, in addition to you create a soul blueprint, has the profile, the block, restrictions, then you look a little deeper and say, well, now they're clear, and they're going to manifest. Maybe they're not manifesting in alignment with the way that their soul best manifests. And so then that information is available. And once I understood that changed quite a bit. It's like, well, the reason that you're trying so hard and not getting a result is because you're not manifesting this in the way that it works best for your soul. So take a look at what you're trying to manifest and then understand how your soul best manifests. And then you just, as you said, there's one little degree shift.
Yeah.
You just take that one little degree shift and you make slightly different choice, and it exponentially changes everything.
Yes.
Yeah. So
it doesn't
have to be, I think a lot of people get frightened because of asking for help, because they think it's going to be this big overwhelming thing. They got to get, help that's going to take a lot of time, a lot of money, a lot of effort, and they're already overwhelmed. And they don't. It just is. That's what I love about your book. It's like just this one little shift. Yeah. But you have to do it.
Yes.
So I say to them, don't hang up and not do anything.
Right?
What are you going to do as soon as we hang up? You have to take just one step. Write down, even if it's writing down what you're going to do tomorrow.
Yes.
So that the universe knows, hey,
yes,
yeah, she's moving, right? She's moving and grooving.
Yay. I love it.
Get on it. Yeah. So.
Well, and that's what I love about your work is you work at that soul level.
Yes, I do.
It's not that intellectual level. Yeah, you share intellectual stuff, but you really speak to, I think that in my experience with you all these years, even though you're talking, your spirit and your soul, both of them are also talking, but to the spirit and the soul of that person. And so it's kind of like a threefer, you know what I mean? And I love that about you and all of the work that you do, especially with your intensives, is that you really, you not just speak to the ego and just kind of, train the ego, but you also speak to that deep core level of the person that causes such a huge, sometimes subtle, sometimes massive, but this huge shift that it's tangible. It is this tangible feeling where all of a sudden things just open up, and what didn't seem possible before now seems and feels and actually is possible for each person that works with you. I just love that.
Thank you. Yeah, the results are individual, of course, but there's a common thing where there's a lifting of the fog and a clarity and an illumination that they really are in control.
Yeah.
I'm the delivery girl, but they're the ones that are in control, and they have their soul is dropping a spirit in the body to have an experience, and there's help. There's other kinds of help. We talk about spirit guides and that sort of thing, and your intuition.
Yep.
So, but here on planet Earth, the intuition is extremely important. A lot of people start there because they're not really sure that they understand what the soul is, but once you do understand about the soul, it makes actually, my experience makes understanding and hearing your intuition and acting on it a little bit easier.
Yeah.
They are different topics.
Yep. Oh yeah, I agree with you. Share with us one piece of advice or guidance that you want those people to know who are curious right now.
About connecting with their soul.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So I would say that first, to understand that you have a soul, right? And the soul is the great pilot.
Mm-hmm.
The soul is the great pilot. It's traveling all the time. And your intuition is your guide while you're here. And in order to be able to connect with your soul, I find that the best thing to do is to have a regular, I'll say it's a regular spiritual practice,
Mm-hmm.
where you do need to get still so that you can feel the essence of who you are and be able to hear what the soul callings are.
Mm-hmm.
So this is why tools like meditation work. A lot of people say, "Oh, I can't meditate." Well, you can if you focus. You can even do. It's almost in the hypnosis realm, but where you focus and you allow the thoughts to. I like to let the thoughts go into bubbles and orbit around me until my head is completely empty.
Mm-hmm. I love it.
And then it's just me. It's just me there, the essence of me, right? And everything else is floating in a bubble around me. And it's in that moment that I understand who I am and everything's possible, right? It's very calming. Then you can think about which of those things that's orbiting around you is important and which aren't. You can solve problems in that way. So learning how to meditate, where you can really, people say, well, meditation is relaxation, and it is not. It's an activity for the brain. You're separating the thinking mind from what else is there. What else is there is the spirit, and the soul. So yeah, connecting with your soul. A lot of people will find spending time in nature is somehow able to allow them to connect to their soul by connecting with nature. We're all made up of those same elements. So I would do it that way. Some of the technical ways to do it, obviously, would be to get your soul blueprint done, so that someone can go in and learn how to read your own soul record. And if you don't know how to do it or don't want to do it, hire someone like me or someone who knows how to do it to help you. That's the shortcut.
Yeah.
That's the shortcut. But then it's a practice. I always find that when people understand who they are at soul level and they really want to deeply align, the way to be able to stay in alignment then is to listen to your natural intuition.
Yep.
Because the intuition is constantly nudging you in the way that it knows will be best for you, whether that's with people, situations, places, opportunities, creative projects, And so it's almost like the intuition in this body is in part the voice of the soul trying to get your attention.
Yeah.
I'm having an event on December 3rd. It's called Soul Mapping, and it's an annual planning party. It's an annual planning party, but it's not like any other planning party, right? So it's completely different because you're going to chart your new year by tapping into your soul's wisdom.
Ooh,
so we're going to open up the soul record. There'll be a review of 2022 and a closing. And then in the opening of the energy and welcoming what's coming in 2023, I'm going to take everybody into their soul records. We're going to have a look around in there. I say look around, but it'll be specific to next year, and identify what it is that the soul is desiring to do next, and then be able to figure out what are the supporting elements, probably directionally, because I like the idea of it being a map, that the soul's traveling, so we'll take a look at different directions, the north, the south, the east, the west, up and down, what's behind you, what's in front of you, all of that. And when you do it in the context of the soul record, the information just flows. So you can see, this is what I need to let go of in order to be able to get what I want. This is what's going to inspire me this coming year that maybe I don't know about. These are the things that, have my back. Here's the trouble that's coming. I need to be able to hold that down. all that, right? All that. And then there's the practical side of the soul mapping too, which where you can go into it and ask your intuition to start selecting the time frame. You know, is this going to happen in this season? What month will be happening? Is this best? Maybe I don't have enough information. It needs to wait until next year. But it's an opportunity to work directly with your soul's wisdom on what it wants to experience next. So you don't have to be wondering. You know, you can hear the callings and then fit it in. Now that could include the wish list and the goals. I just don't start there.
Right.
You know,
I love this.
We don't pull it out and say, what are our quarterly goals? And let's list the tasks to get there. I don't know about you, but I never get them. And I always have way more than I ever could humanly possibly do in the year. Ever.
Yep.
You know?
Well, a lot of people map it out with their ego. And I love that you share how you could do this with your soul. Yeah.
Now I'm flipping it. So I'm gonna flip it in and have the soul be the pilot. And
love
then intuition is going to be the guide.
Yeah. And
then they'll end up basically having a soul map that they can, you know, refer to all year long as they're going. Because, you know, when you start working in the soul work like that, as I was saying before, sometimes it can be frustrating or maybe even infuriating because it sounds like you don't understand what's going on. It's like, that doesn't make any sense. So you immediately dismiss it. And it just isn't happened enough yet for you to get a peek into it. But what I'm going to do is I'm also going to take everybody on, I'm going to have them travel to their future 1 year from now. And I'm going to have them take a peek at how they're doing based on what it is that they are deciding to do and the actions that they're taking now. So then they'll be able to see that when they made all these choices, this is what happens.
Yeah.
And if you tweak it, do your 1 degree shift right over here in this section, and then you will get something different. So I think that's sort of a grounding, practical exercise to help them say, wait, I am in control. I do make the choices here and I'm able to manifest. So you can see there's lots of pieces to my soul coaching puzzle. But I thought that I would do the soul mapping annual party instead of, you know, a regular annual planning party this year, put a different swing on it since I'm strongly pivoting my own business to 2 areas, soul coaching and Reiki and intuition falls in that realm.
I love it.
Yeah, so that's December 3rd. If anybody's listening and they're in the mood to chart their new year with their soul's wisdom, you can go to my website, trulyliving.net. You'll see in the blog, there's the event. You just sign up for it. And it's free.
Yay.
And it's free.
That link will be in the comments, or not in the comments, in the show notes.
In the post, in the show notes. Oh, I love the sound of that.
Yes.
Show notes.
So let's just say someone comes to your event.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh, this feels so good. But then that little voice comes in that's just like, oh no, because all the other years they've planned with ego and they haven't met their goals. Do you offer like a monthly or weekly or bi-weekly check-in or a way for them to work with you throughout the year so that they stay the course to what they created with you in that mapping, workshop?
I don't, but thank you for that great idea.
Yay. You're welcome.
I don't have a monthly. I was entertaining the idea of maybe having some sort of a monthly membership where, you know, it would be like a check-in thing, you know, where we get together, but it would be in a group format. When the thing that I do offer is one-off sessions when people are integrating what it is that they learned about their soul and they're out there doing it, you know, and then inevitably opportunities arise where they have either questions or it's not working or they need some more guidance. And then what they do is they sign up for basically it's a private session with me, and then we do the work together. Okay. And then maybe it could be that they need some additional help in the Akashic records, like I mentioned it before. They just might not be manifesting in alignment with the essence of their soul. So I do a manifesting blueprint. Or maybe they're really having problems in their relationship or relationships. It could be any relationship. So then I open up 2 soul records, one for each soul, and find out what's going on. Why are they even in a relationship? And where is this problem? There's a life situational reading that can be done where, like, if the same thing happens, like let's say the light in the oven will never go on, and you've changed the bulb 1,000 times, and every time you open the light in the oven, it doesn't go on, and nobody can figure it out. It'll be in the Akashic record why the light's not on.
I love that.
So they call that a life situation. It's a life situational reading. I say they, right? The methodology that I was using for that. And then, believe it or not, your business has an Akashic record because it's energy, right? So you can examine your business in the Akashic record and decide the trajectory of finances. Energy is money. We talked about this before. And money is energy. Energy shows up as money. So you can take a look at, at money in that realm as well. So there's a lot more that can be done. Believe me, when somebody gets a My Soul Blueprint in their inbox, in their email, and they read the 25 to 35 pages, they need a while to really think about what is going on. And then, we meet for 2 hours in my soul coaching intensive. I do all that work first. It takes me 5 or 6 hours to put together a soul blueprint that has, all their soul profile, all the blocks and restrictions. And I'm not happy with just knowing what the blocks and restrictions are. I have to go in myself, right, to satisfy myself and find out intuitively what happened. This is a past life. What happened? Show it to me like a movie, and then they show, and I see it like a movie. And then I'm able to say, this is a choice the soul made in a past life 5 lifetimes ago that caused this whole big problem, and now it doesn't manifest itself like that. It manifests itself like this, so those they get an awful lot the first go. And then the place where it helps to have the ongoing or check-ins, which is why they end up being sessions, is that they need the practical application. I find that people sort of get stuck on the practical application, even intuitively. Their intuition is telling them to do this, and they keep doing this other thing because they want more confirmation and more synchronicities and more confirmation. I should probably end with this. I'll tell you this really great intuition story, how I trusted it, just blindsidedly trusted it, right? Totally changed my life. I couldn't even believe it myself. So I used to work for an attorney. I was thinking about becoming a lawyer. And I thought, before I go all that money and effort, I think I'll go get a job. I was thinking maybe my other choice was I wanted to be in international marketing. So I thought I'm going to go work for a company that has international marketing, international products, get an inside view what that's like. Then I'll decide. So I started to send out my resume, and I got an interview with this company. And there were 5 people who were going to interview me. It never happened to me before. There's 5. So clearly they want to know they're looking at personality, things beside the resume. How's this person going to fit into the company, all that. So I go through each interview was only 15 minutes. And so I'm on number 5 in this company. I walks in, interesting person. The interview went on for 45 minutes. We never talked about the job. And I thought, wow, this is the biggest personality test I think I've ever experienced, Really, I'm wondering if I'm being recorded.
Right.
And I really like this person, and before I left that part of the interview with the 5th person, he said to me, oh, here's my business card. Clearly, I can see from your resume that you're qualified to do the job. That's not a problem. He says, if you have any other questions about the corporate company culture, anything about, advantages to working here, you can call my number. And I thought, wow, this is just like really the best company I could ever possibly work for, or this is the smoothest hit that I have ever had from a man, right? So I left and I went home with this guy's card, and I put it on I was still living with my parents. I was 20 years old, and I put it on my bedroom dresser, and I sat on my bed and I thought, I just met the man I'm going to marry. And it was ridiculous even to me. And then I was going to, I say Jersey, I lived at the border of Pennsylvania, New Jersey. Drinking age in Jersey was lower than the drinking age in Pennsylvania. It was Friday. So my friends came over, so going to Jersey. Yeah. And she says, oh, She says, what's that card? Is that the card from the job interview you had today? I said, yeah, I went on the job interview. She said, did you get the job? I was like, I don't know yet. She says, well, whose name is that on the card? And I said, that's that guy I'm going to marry. And she backed away from me and she sat on my bed on her back elbows, real sassy like, and she said, oh yeah, so that's the guy you're going to marry. And I said, yeah. And she knew about my intuitive ability. And she said, how do you know that? And I said, I don't know. I just know. And she said, well, what are you going to say to X? X was my fiance.
Oh,
I was engaged to be married, right? She said, what are you going to say to X? How are you going to explain that? And I said, well, I don't know. And even my mind jumped into, I need confirmation. I need confirmation. I need confirmation. I'm not sure I can believe this, but I know what I feel. I know it for sure. So even me, even at that age, having all that intuition experiences, I was still doubting and saying, I need confirmation. And I thought to myself, I know what the confirmation is. Confirmation is I'm going to get the job. So that he has access to me, because I didn't give him my number. Although I guess he could have found it on the resume, right? But that would have been a little, that would almost be a stalking category. And on Monday, I got the job. And then I knew, I was like, oh my God, I have to break up my engagement. And I did.
Yeah.
Everybody thought I was on that case. Everybody thought I was just, I probably shouldn't use that word in that case, but that's the word that they use.
Yeah.
That I was just, irrational, didn't know what I was doing. Lisa's different.
Yep. I love
By the way,
it.
I did marry him. By the way, yeah, I did marry him.
Yep.
But see, I trusted it and it changed my whole life. My whole life was changed. My relationship that I was committed to wasn't that good. There were problems there. There would have been problems down the road, but I felt the pressure that was what I was supposed to do. I was supposed to find a boyfriend and I was supposed to get married by a certain age and supposed to have children and all that. I fell into that trap, and by listening to my intuition, I got out big time, and I started dating this person who one day got a call about a job in California. And I think we were dating for 3 or 4 weeks. And he says, I'm moving to California. And I remember thinking to myself, well, am I moving to California?
I love it.
I was like, 4 weeks? Really? And so then, but the God Friday said, if there's anything that you want to go to California, bring it to my house because it's a corporate move, including your car. Everything will go on a truck and we'll go.
Nice.
So it was just, listening, that was for me, if I'm looking at my timeline of my whole life, that's a big one. Listening to my intuition in that example, because it was big. That was like a huge leap.
Yeah.
That was my soul telling me to leap out of my situation into something that was more suitable for me and what we want. What I say, me and my soul wanted to experience. Yeah. Isn't that interesting? There's another interesting thing you didn't know about Lisa. I bookend your for your listeners, right? Something interesting in the beginning and not something interesting.
I love it. It's so good. Well, and I think a lot of our listeners are feeling like they're at the precipice of that huge leap, and that doesn't make any sense, that might look crazy to other people, but they feel it at that soul level and just might need that confirmation. So if that's you, call Lisa.
Yeah, I can help you. You can come to my soul mapping event, which is December 3rd. It's an annual planning. We're charting, with the soul, but you'll be in your soul record. So you can get peaks and snips and tidbits, definitely be able to connect there. But if someone's interested in more seriously making that change from what you're supposed to do, or an ego-driven life, or you're just not sure, you're at a place where there's something more, there's something different, and you're one to feel more comfortable in your own skin at this point of time in your life, I can help you by creating your soul blueprint so you deeply understand and you can see the choices that the soul made previously that might be causing continued problems or things that were projected, and release them, and then basically reorganize your life with the soul in the lead, or your soul as the pilot, and then use your intuition. And I have all those tools. If somebody needs intuition, we can get their intuition developed. If they need to learn how to meditate in order to hear the callings of their soul, I have a tool for that. So there's a whole bunch of tools that come along with me.
I love it.
So I can help. I can help with that. And if you're not sure, we could set up a quick call too. But just the first step is reaching out.
Yay, absolutely. Oh, Lisa, thank you so much. I hope that if all of you are available on December 3rd, please click the link in the show notes, attend that event, because I can guarantee you, working with Lisa and being in her energy and in that space, you are going to have a shift like no other. Oh my gosh.
Oh, thank you,
love
Flora. Appreciate you. Thank you for the opportunity to share on your podcast. I love your work.
Well, thank you so much. I love your work too. And thank you so much for taking the time out of your schedule to be here with all of us. Yay. All of us.
Anytime. Anytime. We could do this regularly. I just love
it. Yes,
right.
I love it. Well, I do have some regulars on the podcast, and I definitely want to bring you back because there's so much to talk about, so many things that we can explore, because life is faceted. It is so multifaceted, and aligning into the best version of yourself, or the version of yourself that you want to create. I mean, like reinventing yourself and saying, yeah, I feel pretty good here, but I want something different. I want something new, whatever it is. And you're full of all of those stories. I just love you. You're just so incredibly amazing.
I feel the same. Yeah.
I love it.
Right. So.
Well, thank you so much, Lisa. I so appreciate you.
Bye for now.
All right, everyone. Thank you so much for listening to today's podcast episode. All links mentioned are in today's show notes. Click all of them. Please connect with Lisa. She is so incredible, and she will support you like no other person will. I love you guys. I'll see you in the next episode. Bye. If you've been loving these episodes, it would mean the world to me if you would rate this podcast on iTunes. A 5-star rating is what I always aim for.